The US military carried out new overnight strikes in Iran, targeting a military site and even shot down 4 Iranian one-way attack drones.
These are the drones that posed a threat near the Strait of Hormuz, and this according to a US official. The official told Reuters that the targeted site was an Iranian ground control station in Bandar Abbas that was preparing to launch a 5th drone. The official described the action as measured, purely defensive, and intended to maintain the ceasefire.
Iranian media said that the Revolutionary Guards fired at an American oil tanker after it attempted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz with its radar system turned off, forcing it to stop and turn back.
Iranian media also said the US military struck a scorched earth area around Bandar Abbas and that the 3 explosions reported earlier were linked to the incident.
This follows an exchange of threats between Iran and US. Iran on Wednesday said a return to war was unlikely, but its military was nonetheless lying in the wait, while US President Trump threatened to finish the job if Tehran did not agree to a deal.
Well, US President Donald Trump has said that he is not satisfied yet with the terms of the deal being negotiated with Iran. He said that Tehran was very much intent on reaching an agreement to end the conflict, but added that so far they haven't gotten there.
Well, speaking to reporters at a cabinet meeting, the US president repeated Washington's willingness to resume strikes if a deal is not reached. His remarks came after Iranian state TV reported what it described as details of a draft agreement. It included US lifting its naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz and on Iran's ports in return of Iran restoring commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. It said that the management and routing of the vessels will be handled by Iran and Oman.
When asked whether he would accept such terms, Trump answered in negative. Listen to this.
Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Now, the US president also denied reports that he was considering easing American sanctions on Tehran or was willing to allow Russia and China to remove Iran's highly enriched uranium.
The U.S. considering easing sanctions on Iran to allow Iran to sell its crude to market?
No, we're not talking about any easing of sanctions or giving money. No sanctions, no money, no nothing. We have control of money that they claim is theirs. We'll keep control of that money. When they behave properly and when they do what's right, we'll let them have their money. But right now, we're not doing that, and it's not, one thing is not contingent on the other.
All right, there's more on this. For that, we're now going to be joined by Dr. Charles Kupchan from Washington, D.C. He's a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Dr. Kupchan, thanks so much for making time. Always a pleasure speaking with you. And let's start right off. U.S. maintains that the strikes were defensive in nature to maintain the ceasefire. In your understanding, in your appreciation, can strikes ensure the continuity of a ceasefire as fragile as this?
Well, in many respects, we're seeing both sides violate the ceasefire. And I think part of what's going on here is that these uses of military force are in the service of trying to put pressure on the other side to make a deal at the negotiating table. If either side wanted to go back to war, they have more than the needed excuse to do so. But the fact that the United States is going after a particular drone, a particular speedboat, a particular radar at a port in Bandar Abbas, that suggests that this is more about coercive diplomacy. The message being sent is, we are still willing to use force, we will use force when we need to, but we'd rather settle this at the negotiating table. Will this turn into a wider war? Could something trigger a more tactical use of force into a wider return to full-scale bombing? Yes, but at least for now, both sides are holding back. Both sides are still pushing and hoping for a deal at the negotiating table.
Right, Dr. Kupchan, and now coming to the big headline, of course, US President Trump has said that he's not satisfied with the terms of the deal as of yet, but he has reiterated that Tehran is very much intent on agreeing to these terms, but agreeing to an agreement on the larger scale. But of course, we understand that concessions have to be made on both sides. And Donald Trump has said that the midterms are not going to put him on a spot where he would accept a bad deal, and they would not accept a deal at all instead of accepting a bad one. How are you reading into that?
Well, the offers that we hear the Iranians are making are not serious offers. They're about continued Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz. They're about a U.S. withdrawal from the region. They're about America releasing frozen assets and dropping various economic sanctions that have been on the country for a very long time. And there's no mention of the core issues that the United States is looking to address, in particular, the nuclear issues, the future of enrichment, and what happens to the stockpile of highly enriched uranium. So in some respects, we're still not really out of the starting gate. We're still in a situation in which the two sides are talking past each other. I do think that on some level, when Trump says, hey, I'm not in a rush, I don't care about the midterms, I think he's sending the message that he's got time here. He thinks that time is on his side. But the reality is that he is in deep trouble politically, that this is a war that is very unpopular in the United States, that gas prices are continuing to rise. So I think the Iranians, to some extent, know that Trump is under a lot of political pressure. Trump knows the Iranians are under a lot of pressure because their economy is collapsing. I think that's one of the reasons that today they began to reopen the internet. They need an open internet for the economy to function. So both sides are trying to say, I'm tough, time is on my side, but both sides are facing a lot of pressure to try to make a deal sooner rather than later.
Dr. Gupchan, I think these sporadic issues of violence, it's twice in less than 3 days already, and more experts we've spoken to, they analyze as this amount of violence may continue, but a larger scale of war, it may not resurface because both sides are under pressure, as you correctly mentioned as well. We've heard that analysis from other analysts as well. Let's wait and watch how this one pans out. That was Dr. Charles Gupchan joining us here on World DNA.